Computer sales, classroom computer sales seem to have peaked and now have hit a flat period, and some say they're going to.
I don't think so.
Oh yes, they've hit a flat period. What should that tell us?
I really don't believe that they've hit a flat period. The computer market has been and is rising at about 30% per year, and nowhere has there been a flat period.
It is not rising at nearly the rate it was going.
Yes, it is.
No, well, we disagree. We're looking at two. We're looking at
Anyway,
two different sets of numbers. My question to you is the home computer destined to become the CB of the '80s, the hula hoop of the '80s?
Well, I'm glad you brought this analogy, because like a CB, it won't be very useful in its present form, which is just talking to yourself and to your computer. But like a CB, when it starts talking to other computers throughout the whole country, when we have several million machines interconnected and people can talk to each other and can exchange views and can transact, can buy and sell information, can buy and sell informational services, labor, I think it's going to be a very interesting period where we'll have an information marketplace. A new way of life.
I quite disagree.
I want to get him angry.
Yeah, I think that won't work. I think that the home computer is going to suffer the same fate, by and large, as, say, the home movie camera. People had the idea, and still have the idea, that if they have a very expensive, a very good home movie camera, then they can make very good movies. The trouble
You're still got to be a good movie maker first.
That's right. The trouble is you have to have an idea. Okay, and people forget that. Similarly, to write good and interesting programs on a computer, one has to have an idea. Ideas are hard to come by.
Professor Weizenbaum, Professor DeTuzos, thank you both.
So you hear two professors taking two different stances on technology, the home computer back in the 80s, and one professor gets it right here, Michael DeTuzos. He basically is explaining that, okay, the home computer is an amazing invention, but once that home computer branches out and talks to other computers globally and the network grows, it's going to be a very interesting revolution of technology. He's basically explaining what we're going through right now in Bitcoin. And then you got skeptics. The guy's saying, the other professor isn't agreeing with him, and the host is very negative on his stance. So this is why we're here. This is why we're educating you on Bitcoin, specifically Bitcoin, but also cryptocurrency, because there will be a cryptocurrency ecospace. A lot of the cryptos will go away, but Bitcoin will be that base layer. If you don't get it, you don't get it. And with that, what's happening, Crypto Crew? Sean's coming back at you, another cryptocurrency video. You know what we do. Whether the market's pumping or dumping, the Bitcoin bros are here for you. We have a clip for you. Jeff Booth. Jeff Booth is going to be talking about Bitcoin, and we agree with him on this stance here. He's saying why Bitcoin might be the only thing that can save humanity. There's been tons of money printing. This Ponzi scheme of the dollar has been here for decades on top of decades on top of decades. Manipulation. The only people the dollar benefits are those elites that have access to the trillions of dollars of money printed. Bitcoin changes that game, and Jeff gets it. Jeff is a huge advocate of Bitcoin. He also warns of debt deflation if the Federal Reserve keep hiking interest rates. He says if they keep hiking, it will eventually turn into debt deflation or a credit wipeout, a la the Great Depression on steroids. Eventually, they'll be forced to pivot. One important consideration for people is to think in terms of lag effect, i.e. 18 months from when actions are set in motion. Remember, when no inflation, transitory inflation, high inflation, the tightening only really started in last September, and the Fed only reduced their balance sheet by 2.7% last year. With subsequent damage, if they continue to tighten, it'll get ugly. If you want to hear more from Jeff, you can just check him out at Jeff Booth on Twitter. And without further ado, let's hear from Jeff.
I believe the crypto blockchain is an attack vector from on Bitcoin, because when you conflate those two things, and they're very different things, you have to go back to money, right? And if money is it's superordinate to laws. The people who own the money change the laws, right? If that didn't exist that way, then where broken money was most evidence, you'd have the strongest laws protecting the people, right? It looks inverse. So when money is manipulated, then society breaks down, because all it is stealing money from some people and transferring to others. And we live, unfortunately, in a system like that. And we all know we live in a system like that. There's $400 trillion of debt in the world that is unrepayable. And the only way it's repayable, if we pretend it's repayable by driving inflation way up, which picks the pocket of some and transfers it to others. Inflation is wage deflation. It's the same thing. And here's where this matters a lot. A monopoly does the exact same thing over and over and over against technology. They put up walls against technology. So if you had something that was decentralized and secure that actually attacked money, like Bitcoin, then you could expect the people closest to the money monopoly, media, everything else, the existing elite. And elite is just a word for who gets transferred the most money from this corrupt system. They would be very against a system that removed that control. They would do everything to stop that system that removed that control. You have a whole bunch of that money creating a whole bunch of narratives around this, and then those narratives fail, and regulation goes in and says, so if you centralize one of these blockchains, and the state can capture that blockchain through regulation, it's over. People that are close to the money monopoly, people in the US, Europe, and such, see this and everything else, because what ends up happening is monopolies technology changes from the bottom up. And the people furthest away from the monopoly benefit from the network effect because they gain more value. So people in Nigeria, people in El Salvador, why it's exploding in these regions, people in Lebanon, people in Turkey that have massive inflation rates and everything else, why it's exploding in these regions and moving really fast there, and that technology is driving, is because monopoly is now money. And the people furthest away from the money monopoly are going first, and they're driving this. In US, Canada, Europe, if governments try and stop this, it's going to be the greatest wealth transfer on the planet from Western democracies to Africa and South America and Central America. Is it because of that is the same thing? So I'm super excited about what's coming, but I think I disagree on where it's coming. When I think about this, I think Bitcoin is a bridge to the other side, that people don't know that this is actually happening. And so it's when I think about this, I think about, if your view of the world was you were an executive at Sears from 1995 to 2010, your world was contracting. It was getting worse and worse. Same world. But if you were at Amazon, that world everything was going great. That's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with inevitable breakdown of a system, but we measure the system from the system. We're inside the system. And it's hard to see a new system emerging and what's happening in the new system. And in the new system, what people are thinking that's happening isn't happening. They think Bitcoin price is going up. It's not. All prices of everything are falling against Bitcoin forever, because technology globally, in energy and everything else, is deflationary. And when you stop manipulating the money, prices fall against it. They just think it's going up, just like they think their house is going up. But it's actually coming down in real terms because you're manipulating the money base underneath. So Bitcoin, because it's outside of that system of manipulation, it's being mismeasured what's happening because people are measuring it through their existing system.